Welcome to reality. You're now on the Code of Mind channel. When we use the phrase the entire universe, our imagination automatically pulls up the familiar rehearsed image from school astronomy textbooks. We instantly visualize the infinite cold reaches of space, billions of distant stars, supernova explosions, the swirling spirals of giant galaxies, the cosmic vacuum, and our tiny, fragile blue marble of a planet lost on the far periphery of this colossal space. From early childhood, we have been conditioned to think that when we ask the universe to hear us or try to direct a mental request toward it, we must make a massive mental effort, sending our signal somewhere far outward, through the layers of the atmosphere and into this endless external cosmic ocean. We feel that somewhere there, among the stardust and black holes, exists a superior intelligence or a grand mechanism that must capture our vibrations, process them, and eventually return them in the form of material goods, long-awaited events, or answers to our questions. But let's cast aside these childish, imposed visualizations and look at the structure of the world from the perspective of advanced quantum physics. What if this entire vast cosmic abyss, frightening in its emptiness, is nothing more than a complex graphical set rendered exclusively on the internal screen of our own perception? The true, authentic universe is not physically located outside our biological body. The entire universe is us in the most direct literal sense of the word. The whole world we perceive, from colossal distant quasars on the edge of the visible cosmos to the tiny drops of cold rain tapping on your windowsill, is assembled into a single, cohesive, tangible image exclusively inside our skulls, within the occipital lobe of the cerebral cortex. A material, independent cosmos outside of our collective consciousness simply does not exist in nature. Light waves and electromagnetic impulses turn into dense objects, colors, sounds, and distances only when our brain processes these signals. We are not guests in this universe. We are its direct source, its center of generation, and its point of assembly. To understand in detail how this amazing mechanism functions, we must clearly distinguish between concepts that people constantly confuse in everyday life. We often mix up a regular flat projection and a real, three-dimensional quantum hologram, treating them as synonyms. But there is a massive chasm between them. A regular projection is the simplest possible process of transferring an already finished, formed image from a light source onto a flat screen, as happens in any movie theater. A hologram, however, is structured fundamentally differently, based on completely different physical laws. It is the product of a complex intersection and interaction of two laser beams, the reference beam and the object beam. If you look at the holographic film itself without special equipment, you will never see a finished image of an object. You will find only a chaotic, meaningless, tangled pattern of millions of microscopic stripes, interference lines, and dark dots. This film holds only pure, encrypted mathematical information about the object's wavefront, coded chaos. But as soon as a reference beam of light passes through this chaotic encoded pattern on the film, a true miracle occurs. The picture instantly comes to life right in empty space. It acquires visible volume, real depth, shadows, texture, and visual density for us. We can walk around it, view it from different angles, and it will seem absolutely real to us. In the scale of our daily lives, this animating reference beam of light is precisely our own consciousness, our own attention. In its quantum core, our material world is an absolutely invisible, formless wave field of probabilities, a giant ocean of information where there is nothing solid. Only when our attention, our internal light consciousness, passes through this encrypted chaos does the information embedded in the field instantly decode. It turns into dense, three-dimensional objects. Furniture in a room, cars on the roads, trees and buildings that we can touch with our hands, feel their weight, warmth or cold, and perceive as the only possible solid reality. From this amazing holographic property of our world, a law directly follows, the law by which the entire simulation operates. Reality is created, solidified, and rendered strictly at the moment of our direct observation. In the modern computer video game industry, this process is called dynamic rendering or game engine optimization, and in theoretical quantum physics, it is called the collapse of the wave function. Simply put, we need to realize one very deep and shocking thing. Behind our backs at this very second, there is physically nothing. Beyond the thick, impenetrable forest, as long as we haven't entered it or haven't directed our gaze toward it, there isn't a single real tree, not a single singing bird, not a single rustling leaf, and not a single blade of grass. There, beyond the boundary of our current perception, lies only pure invisible mathematical code of probabilities, a sleeping information field. Our system is structured incredibly economically and ingeniously. It will never waste the colossal computing power of its processor on the detailed rendering of objects, locations, and textures that are not currently in the observer's focus of attention. Why render an entire city if you are currently sitting in a closed room looking at a screen? For the system, that is a waste of energy. But as soon as we turn our heads, open a door, or take one step forward, our brain, working like a powerful high-speed decoder, instantly in fractions of a millisecond, reads the wave signal from the general field and transforms it into a solid, colorful, tangible physical image of a forest, a road, or a new street. We have become accustomed to blindly believing that our world is absolutely stable, monumental, and exists on its own, independent of us, for billions of years. But in reality, this entire giant reality is downloaded beneath our feet, strictly in real time, step by step, creating for our perception an ideal, continuous illusion of stable space. But if everything is structured this way, the next logical question inevitably arises. How then do other people appear in our personal hologram? From early childhood in our families, in kindergarten and at school, we have been insistently indoctrinated with the same dogma. Our globe is inhabited by billions of absolutely separate, isolated, independent beings. We were told that each of them has their own autonomous body, their own thoughts, that they speak thousands of different languages, live in distant countries, and are in no way physically connected to us until we collide directly. We are used to unconditionally believing in this total separation of the world into I and they. However, if we turn to the authentic holographic model of the universe described by the prominent physicist David Bohm and the famous neurophysiologist Carl Pribram, we discover a striking fact. Absolutely every, even the most microscopic, tiny piece of the hologram always contains the full information about the entire massive picture. This opens our eyes to the true nature of humanity. Other people do not physically exist somewhere outside, in separate, isolated biological boxes. All of us, without exception, are one single, indivisible quantum field of consciousness, a colossal ocean of living energy. In this case, our brain acts as an individual antenna or filter. It pulls specific frequency ranges from this infinite general information noise and materializes them in our personal space as concrete figures. Our loved ones, colleagues, random passers-by on the street, or strangers. Different languages, national characteristics, and cultural barriers are not physical dividers at all. They are the software settings of our own mind's filters instilled in us through the processes of upbringing and socialization. The people we see before us every day, their faces, words, and actions are not autonomous elements. They are different mirror reflections of our own deep internal state. Every second of our lives, we interact exclusively with activated parts of ourselves, which our collective simulation obediently downloads and materializes through the lens of our individual perception. To fully understand how our attention literally sculpts physical objects from the void, let's recall our childhood. Remember how, at a tender age, we all sincerely, to the point of trembling knees, believed in the most ridiculous, insane, and fantastic stories. Just about everyone born or raised during the 80s and 90s remembers our specific local playground jokes and legends. We were told with absolute seriousness in the yard that gypsies had arrived in the next district in a black car to steal a child to sell them into slavery or harvest their organs. And we, falling asleep at night, were panic-stricken by every rustle outside the window, genuinely believing we might be kidnapped at any moment. This story would grow with hundreds of fabricated details from eyewitnesses, becoming an undeniable truth for us. Or remember the chilling story about a careless boy who accidentally stepped on a rusty sewing needle. We were told in all seriousness that the needle broke off, entered under his skin, traveled through his blood vessels straight to his heart, and the boy died. We passed this myth from mouth to mouth in every yard, along with our favorite grandmotherly tales and instructions. Our grandmothers always had their own special, unique way of giving us scary domestic edicts. We were strictly forbidden from making faces in front of a mirror, warned that if someone scared us at that moment or if it struck midnight, our faces would remain twisted, scary, and ugly forever. We were forbidden from whistling in rooms because we would whistle away all our money, or sitting on a table because we wouldn't get married and would stay poor. Every such yard or home horror story always started with the standard hypnotic phrases. Once upon a time in a city there lived a girl, or there was a boy from a certain school, and this really happened to him, my own second cousin told me. And the most striking thing is that we wholly, unconditionally believed in all these urban legends which today, from the height of our adult experience, seem like absolute nonsense and don't make any sense. As long as these myths and horror stories remained in our general information field, we actively exchanged them, fueled them with our emotions, and someone in our circle of acquaintances would allegedly have similar incidents occur. Someone would find needles. Someone would have things go missing. Someone would have omens come true. Wherever our focused childhood attention was, supported by a powerful emotional charge of fear or curiosity, the world would throw us real confirmations, solidifying the hologram into tangible facts. In fact, when we become adults, nothing in the mechanics of our reality changes at all. Only the scale, the scenery, and the seriousness of the circulating stories have changed. Today, just the same, by opening the internet or turning on our phone screens, we constantly hear from every source that someone, somewhere, has declassified secret archives, discovered a secret world government, encountered reptilians, or found 100% irrefutable evidence of a global conspiracy of 13 families. We are by no means going to devalue these theories, laugh at them, or negate their existence. In our plastic simulation, absolutely everything we sincerely choose to believe in truly happens, because the field is boundless. But for us, it is vital to realize the hidden algorithm itself. As soon as we pull a specific topic, idea, or fear out of the general, chaotic context of global information noise, our holographic engine instantly, without delay, begins to purposefully render it specifically for us. If we genuinely immerse ourselves for just a few days headfirst in studying any frightening or intriguing conspiratorial concept, the Matrix immediately, like an obedient performer, begins pouring this scenario into our personal projection of reality. We start, as if by accident, to come across exactly those thematic videos in our recommendations. We suddenly stumble upon expert articles, find like-minded people, and social media algorithms start bombarding us with tons of information on this topic. The reality around us begins to unfold very convincing, dense scenery, where specially loaded system facts act as ironclad proof. We ourselves, through our focused interest, pull this branch out of the field of possibilities. Whatever we want to pour into our life scenario, stories about secret elites, microchipping, or underground civilizations, the hologram obediently materializes it in our individual perception, daily slipping us new, even more convincing confirmations, validating our personal truth. To understand in detail how these infinite branches of probabilities are distributed and function, we must deeply study the concept of multi-dimensional layers of perception, known today by the terms 3D, 4D, and 5D worlds. It is important to understand once and for all, these are not physical planets in space, not different geographical continents, and not isolated zones behind a fence. These are exclusively levels of frequency, layers of density of our own individual state of consciousness. In the base 3D world, we live exclusively according to the rigid programs of the mind, in a constant, exhausting state of scarcity of time and money, a constant fight for survival, fear of the future, resentment, and total judgment of those around us. Being on this frequency, we are sincerely convinced that nothing depends on us in this life, that we are little people, and that only conspiracies, enemies, crises, and injustice exist around us. We must realize the key truth of the quantum field. Within it, simultaneously, here and now, absolutely all possible branches of probabilities exist. from scenarios of total prosperity and joy to branches of deep crisis, war, and poverty. But for the simulation itself, for the central processor, there is absolutely no difference between conditional good and conditional evil. For the system, these are not emotions, but simply different sets of mathematical digital code, different frequencies, and it is absolutely indifferent as to which layer of reality to render beneath your steps. Whatever you broadcast, it renders. The 4D space is our first conscious transitional gateway, a mental zone where our consciousness begins to gradually wake up from systemic hibernation. Here, we finally begin to clearly understand that the entire world around us is our direct, crystal-clear mirror, and we begin to learn how to manage our thoughts, emotions, and reactions, realizing cause and effect relationships. But the highest, purest, and most effective level for us is the 5D space. This is a unique layer of absolute total presence in the moment, here and now, where our internal state of harmony and wholeness completely, without distortion, determines all external material events. In the 5-dimensional space, any struggle, competition, scarcity, and fear physically cease to exist for us. We finally realize that we ourselves are the full-fledged architects of our personal universe. Our internal indicator of consciousness burns with a steady, powerful, shining light, and the matrix instantly, without delays, pulls the most successful events, necessary acquaintances, and material goods toward us, encountering no resistance from the external environment. That is precisely why at the same linear clock time, we can sit in the same cozy restaurant at the same table as another person, but physically live in absolutely different, non-intersecting worlds. One of us, through our consciousness, our habitual reactions and fears, is stuck forever in, say, the 2000s. They continue to think in old, ossified categories of survival, loudly discuss others' gossip, replay past grievances in their head, inflate conflicts, and broadcast a frequency of scarcity into the field. They are locked in a heavy, viscous 3D layer of reality, and their matrix will obediently download problems, lack of money, and stress for them. And one of us sitting right across from them is already mentally and energetically in 2035. They fully manage their life by maintaining a creative internal state, see this world as a plastic, malleable digital hologram, and create projects of planetary scale. We can look each other in the eyes, use the same words, speak the same language, but we are physically incapable of hearing and understanding each other because our consciousnesses function on completely different frequency servers. That is absolutely normal. There are no right or wrong ones here. It's just that we are on different branches of reality, in different projections of the unified field of possibilities. It is time for us to finally realize that everything in this world is pure, unadulterated energy. All responsibility for what happens before our eyes lies exclusively with us. Our system is neither evil nor good. It is not trying to punish or reward us. It merely impartially reflects what we are filled with from within. As long as we spend our precious focus of attention on fueling old programs, on fears, on getting involved in others' arguments and discussing destructive noise, we voluntarily give away our life energy, draining our own character. But as soon as we completely withdraw our attention from others' destructive scripts, recognize ourselves as the authors, and direct the entire resource toward stabilizing our internal state, the rules of the game change. Our simulation automatically, according to the laws of physics, folds up the old gray scenery and downloads a clean, safe, harmonious, and luxurious world beneath our steps. Thank you for being with me on this channel. I wish you the best possible branch of reality. Subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video. Take care.